Look at today's market activity and perhaps a word on what to expect as the year starts. Wayne McCurrie from FNB Wealth and Investments joins us. Wayne, good evening. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
We'll get into the market activity and stocks in a moment, but I want to start with the Rand. Jumping over 14 Rand periodically, and then we're back at into that 1390 region. We see the dollar swaying over the past few days, so that's been the movement there. But I mean, the broader question, what is the fair value of the Rand? And I know you've said that's subjective.
Anything's subjective, and my fair value is different to someone else's fair value, but I think anywhere between 12 Rand 50 and 14 Rand. So the Rands call it at 14, so at the higher end of fair value. But you must understand that fair value for the Rand gets worse by about 6 or 7% every year. The Rand is a structurally weak currency over time, just that its movements are very volatile. So let's just say the Rand should weaken 30% over 10 years. That would be quite normal. The problem is it does it in 1 year, and then everyone panics. So the Rand is very volatile. Remember, around Christmas it was 14.60, and now it's below 14 again. So volatility is part of it, and it is just inside fair value, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, it does pose a problem to those importing and exporting.
It's
Money
so
can be lost, huge volumes, and I suppose that's why that volatility is such a concern, isn't it?
Yes. Look, I mean, the Rand's a very well-traded currency. It's probably one of the highest-traded emerging market currencies. So unfortunately, when something goes wrong in any other emerging market or something turns negative for emerging markets in general, the Rand will get slammed. But then again, when things turn positive, the Rand can strengthen quite significantly because then the money flows in again.
So we're in the dying parts of the holiday break, people returning to work, business activity slowly starting to pick up. So that's why I think there's thin trade on the JSE. But 0.5% up today. It was down by about the same margin. Interesting, some local stocks making a contribution today.
Yeah, look, I personally think the local stocks are very reasonably valued, and we can talk about that later. But as you said right in the beginning, when I judge how many of my colleagues are back at work this week, volumes are thin. So only really next week are you going to see true volume and probably more correct prices come through. So in these low volume trade days, a share can go up 5 or drop 5% very easily, whereas in a high volume day it wouldn't necessarily do that. But some of the local shares did contribute. Certainly the banking shares did quite well. Naspers did quite well, although it's obviously not totally a local share. But yeah, we'll have to wait till next week, really.
Wayne, I'm interested in this MTN share. I mean, you had something happening on Friday where there seems to be some traction being gained as far as the Nigerian Central Bank is concerned over that money transfer. They seem to be getting things in order. The share's still negative. I mean, it looks like shareholders are not buying it. Why? What's going on?
MTN has had a terrible time. Not only is the whole industry under pressure because it's got intense competition, you've got falling data rates, you've got falling voice minutes, and you've got rising capex. So this is not a good set of, good cocktail under normal conditions. Then you go to Nigeria, where you just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, you thought you knew the rules, and all of a sudden the rules change, and you get these enormous fines. They all get watered down eventually, but it is such an uncertain environment, and the market's saying, yes, okay, maybe you've reached some sort of deal with this one, but next week there's another one. So the market doesn't know, but this share has been totally and utterly destroyed.
I would imagine 2019 not looking like certainty will come back very soon for the share.
Well, look, the Nigerian authorities themselves will learn that the uncertain environment will chase away investors. So it's actually, although they might get some money in by imposing fines, and that's a very short-term solution, longer term they're doing themselves more damage than they're doing to MTN, because anyone who thought about investing in Nigeria is going to look at MTN and say, we're not going there because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. The environment is uncertain.
Gold miners today down by about 4% or thereabout. Anglo Gold, Ashanti, above 5% in the red. The gold price is higher, but gold miners just really not making it in the last few years.
Certainly gold shares have been a very poor investment for decades now. Certainly the South African gold companies, I hope Sibanye makes it and is a success, but the South African gold companies are in deep trouble. There's no gold left, and what is there is very deep and very expensive to mine. I mean, when I joined the market in the early 80s, gold mines were 40% of our JSE. That's how big it was. Now they almost don't exist in JSE terms. So this is an incredibly difficult environment. And almost all of them, you know, they're producing at marginal costs. But look, gold price goes up $50, they make a killing. Gold price falls $50, they're all in huge losses again. So it's a very difficult environment for investors. And I don't think I've owned a gold share for 20 years. That's just too difficult to call.
You were speaking about Naspers earlier. Yes, about 0.5% up, but that's still a really big amount affecting the JSE, even though it's thin trade. What do you think about this year? I mean, I see diversifying where they're going at the moment in India, food delivery business. How much of value do you think Naspers is without Tencent?
Look, without Tencent, it would be a completely different kettle of fish. Because even though they have had quite a few successes, they've sold quite a few of the businesses, the non-Tencent businesses, for very, very good amounts of money.
Yep.
The real investment that they've made there, which is significant, hasn't really turned the corner yet in respect of profits and cash flow. So you would be sitting and waiting if you didn't have the Tencent. So the Tencent money gives Naspers the cash to invest, and they borrow money, and they have had rights issues to invest in these other businesses. They're extremely positive. You know, according to their disclosures, a couple of these businesses are going to turn the corner quite soon. They're going into food delivery, they're going into e-commerce, they're going into payment solutions. But the market gives them actually a negative value. So if they get it right, there's huge upside in the Naspers share price. And understand at 2,700, 2,800 a share, it's a lot cheaper than 4,100.
Indeed. So just before I let you go, I mean, you get these people invested or investors invested in local stocks like banks and retailers.
Yes.
They're going to be concerned about what happens with growth in this country. We've got an election coming up. What's your take on where we're going with 2019 growth?
Well, I think it's quite positive. I mean, I don't think we're going to grow at, 2.5%, 3%, but it can't be worse than last year. The big uncertainty is still Donald Trump and trade wars. It seems to be going good.
Yep.
That's of far more importance than any domestic event. The election, the ANC will come in with an increased majority. It'll actually be a bit of a non-event, to be honest. I mean, we'll hear a lot of noise in the run up to the election, but simplistically, the banks and the retailers are cheap. As long as we don't get a catastrophe in respect of the trade wars, you could actually do quite well out of these shares this year. I mean, last year we had many headwinds, mostly international, but they're also a little bit behind us now. So hopefully we see a good year for a change.
Wayne, thanks very much indeed for coming in. That was Wayne McCurrie from FNB Wealth and Investments.